Hello everybody, this is Carl Peterson, your online instructor for today. The guiding question and thus topic for the second module will be Why Should I Care? Socrates and the Self-Examined Life. As always, we will begin with an overview of this presentation. The first part of this presentation will be further explanation of this module's guiding question, namely, why should I care about how I live? Going into specifics such as why should I care about how I treat myself, other people, or even questions such as why I exist at all. Naturally, we're then going to show the relevance of all those questions that we just asked and how it relates to Socrates, so that you know exactly what to look for in the reading to make the connections towards philosophy, as well as why should I care about my life, why it is important to you. And then, as always, we'll finish up with the weekly activities, specifically the individual activities you need to complete, such as the mind map discussion and the voice thread discussion. And finally, we'll go over how far your group should have progressed in terms of its research into an individual philosopher and his effect or her effect upon the modern world. So without further ado, let's get on with the more expanded question of the guiding question, namely, why should I care about how I live? You know what? That's actually a good question. After all, I only have one life to live, and you want to live. Why should you care about how you act towards others or how you act towards yourself? Why should you care about the various ethical obligations that you have? Why should you care? I mean, after all, you only have one life to live, so why don't you live it however you want and not really care about how you act towards others? Yeah, and remember, if you grew up in the society, they'll often tell you, you should not care about other people's judgments, so why should you care about how you judge yourself? And for the lovely postmodernists within all of us, truth, beauty, justice, and honesty are old values from old people used to oppress and enslave human minds to the dominant culture, and as a modern human being, I choose not to be a slave. There's only a couple problems with this type of thinking, though. If I only have one life to live, shouldn't I live by what I think is important, and by my own values? I mean, how do I know that my own values are the ones I truly wish to live by? I mean, if I've never examined how I act towards others, then how do I know I agree with how I'm acting? Also, I really do only have one shot at this, whether I believe in an afterlife or not, so shouldn't I at least perform my actions towards others and myself in a way that I would want to live? To get it right the first time, since it is the only time I'll be able to get it right? In response to the second point, what if other people's judgments are helpful and useful advice? What if I judge my own actions to be those I do not wish to do and regret doing? What if my own judgments happen to be the same as other people or the society which I live in? I mean, if I end up agreeing with the judgments of other human beings and they're part of the majority belief system or philosophy, should I rebel against them for the sake of rebelling? Isn't that a kind of a sheepishness in and of itself? I mean, isn't the whole point to be an individual and truly not give a darn about what other people think? And if so, then what if it just so happens to be what everybody else agrees with? Is it therefore wrong to have that same belief? And that doesn't make too much sense, now does it? And finally, in response to the third postmodernist response, what if truth, specific types of beauty, honor, and justice are things I value regardless of what others have used them for in the past? How am I not a slave if I follow modern values simply because they are modern values? After all, what if you end up agreeing with concepts such as truth, some beauty, some honor, and some justice from the past, or from people in the future? Does it ultimately matter what specific point in time you end up agreeing or disagreeing with the philosophies of past and present or even future human beings? Time just doesn't really seem to matter when it comes to the wisdom of other people and whether you agree or disagree with them. All that matters is what you as an individual think is the right way to live, right? And after all, if I'm essentially just being another type of slave if the only reason I follow modern values is because they're modern. So as for these specific points, as you can see that self-examination still has a relevance within the modern world. It was important in the past, and it still is important in the present, because self-examination has always been about examining the human self and what motivates us to do what we do, and to better understand ourselves. Things that will always be important throughout time, no matter where or when a human being exists. And simply because some of these older values are old doesn't necessarily mean they are enslavement. That simply because somebody discovered something in the past doesn't necessarily take away that it still is relevant to ourselves in the present. Finally, living how I want to live because I agree with how I live and what needs to change to make life better. In short, self-examination is still important because I want to find out how I want to live, what kind of way I want to treat other human beings and myself, and if necessary, to reflect and see if I need to make any changes so that I can improve my life, because again, I only have one life to live, and I need to get it right the first time around. And also, if you believe in reincarnation, you still only have one chance to get it right to seek enlightenment, so might as well try your best now. Now you can see that all of these aspects of self-examination are still important to a human being on a personal level. And since Socrates was a human being, you can also now see why, or even get a taste of why, Socrates found it so important. Which of course brings us to our next section, which is a quick overview of Socrates, the supposed father of Western philosophical thought. Socrates was born in 470 or 469 BC in Athens, Greece. He died in 339 BC in Athens, Greece. He spent his entire life within Athens. These are going to be the important characteristics of Socrates which you should look for within your reading, so that you can better understand Socrates by knowing what to look for from the very beginning. Some of these points will be purposely vague, and if you take the time to find out the specific answers to each of these vague points, you'll have a better understanding of the reading as well as Socrates himself, and the importance of self-examination. To begin with, Socrates did value truth, honesty, and justice. In fact, he valued it probably more than his own life. He truly did believe in Athenian democracy. To truly understand what happened to Socrates, you need to understand that one of his friends was told by the oracle at Delphi that there was no one wiser than Socrates, which caused Socrates to test this claim. Most importantly, unlike the sophists, Socrates asserted the existence of right and wrong answers, and that humans could learn those answers. To understand who the sophists were, they were a type of philosopher existing in Athens, Greece, that truly asserted that anyone can argue any hypothetical point of view, and they would, on several occasions, market their ability to argue to be paid. Naturally, many sophists, of course, did not like Socrates, because he did believe that there was a right or wrong answer. Finally, Socrates is accredited with the creation of the Socratic method. It's a type of teaching that is in fact still used within higher education today. The teacher effectively just asks questions, and essentially encourages questioning and thoughts, effectively about everything. Finally, Socrates paid a heavy price for living by his values. Okay, so since we're done with that, let's go to the weekly activities. First of all, you're going to need to be able to do the reading connections. You're going to do the reading, and then as individuals, you're going to answer the questions which I have given you, and then turn them in online. The questions are designed so you reflect upon the reading and truly understand how Socrates truly influenced the foundations of Western philosophy. Then we're going to go to the class discussions. By Wednesday, I want you to have completed the mind map discussion. You can find details by going into the assignment section of the online course. By Friday, I want you to have participated in the VoiceThread discussion. Again, you are doing something similar to the mind map discussion, where you respond to essentially the person beforehand. Just remember that the VoiceThread discussion is a little different, has a couple guide laws, but it's pretty easy and straightforward to do. And again, go ahead and look up the assignment section, how-to section of the online course to figure out how the VoiceThread discussion is important. Next, I'm going to go into specifics about how far your group should be on their WebQuest assignment, By the end of this week, your group should have picked a philosopher to research. Also, your group should begin researching online and offline sources for information on your philosopher and their influence throughout Western civilization. The specific amount of online and offline sources you each as individuals will have to find for your group is specified on the WebQuest assignment page. Which brings us to the end of this week's module presentation. By the way, this is a picture from a scene from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, a movie about two high schoolers who use a time-traveling phone booth to abduct famous historical figures for the sole purpose of passing their history class so their music saves the future. And here's a works cited page. Take care. Goodbye.